Hi there, everybody. This is John Drew here from Elevated Planet.
And Jolé Gabrielle here from Elevated Planet. And we'd like to welcome you to today's show. And John is going to tell us more about it.
With so many distractions going on in the external world, how does humanity stay on contract? What contract? What does that even mean? Very good questions. Thank you for asking, but I'll defer the answers to our show. But it's fair to say that it is more important than ever that we create our space of sovereignty, neutrality, inner peace and harmony. As such, this week we dive deeper into the starving out of the old and loving in the new, then deeper still into how personal reality creation really works. We are always creating our own personal reality, so it's best we understand the rules of the game. Individually, we are powerful, but as a community, we are an unstoppable force for the light, acting as way showers as that awakening of spiritual curiosity starts to kick in for more and more people. The journey towards the great remembering is very much underway. Time to slip that underwear over the top of your trousers. And we're going to be going to Darius J. Wright.
Yeah, don't forget your cape.
Oh, yes. We're going to go to Darius J. Wright, who is wonderful. The thing with Darius, for those who are not familiar with his work, he's a man who, at the age of 16, had a near-death experience, which took him over to the other side. And when he came back, he discovered that he was able to do exactly what Elizabeth does, remote view. Because having done it once, albeit, through a near-death experience, he realized that remote viewing is like a near-death experience, but it's a controlled near-death experience where you're choosing where you're going to go and what you're going to do. Fascinating stuff. Anyway, so Darius, we're starting with Darius. So if you bear with me a second, we're going to switch screens and get that started.
When you start to speak a certain way to yourself out loud, you will start to vibrate the cells to basically sync with the frequency of what you're speaking. This is why you hear people healing themselves. They heal themselves because a miracle, what people call a miracle, because they believe it to be so. They say, I'm not going to be sick. And then they start healing themselves. And, this has been proven as well, placebo, stuff like that. If you believe something with that much conviction, well, it's going to happen. When people talk about God, they talk about God as a singular being. And this singular being has control over all things. And that's control over everything. God is not one being. It's all of us. It's every single soul is its own God. Okay. When it comes to this construct, the creation of this construct, what I've come to through the out of body stuff is as above, so below, as within, so without. We have 13 months, supposed to have 13 months. This is why they did 12 months. Every single month is supposed to be 28 days based on the moon and stuff like that. So 13 months, 13 beings was the creators of this construct, the 12 realms, 13 beings, etc. That's what I've gotten anyways. But God as a singular being that created everything, it's all of us, every single soul. The whole creation of everything is based off of frequency, energy. Everything is. The physical body in and of itself is an electromagnetic being. That's what the physical body is. It creates an electromagnetic field. Your soul is an electromagnetic being. So everything in this whole creation is frequency. It's energy, sound, which creates certain tones. This is why every single soul is so uniquely different. When people say that we are all the same, that couldn't be further from the truth, because we are so uniquely ourselves that we actually aren't even close to being the same, because we have our own individual soul's expression, our own individual spark, our essence, our frequency, our tone that is not like the other. This is why when I was back in 16, and also all the other experiences that I've had through controlled out-of-body states, which is a controlled near-death experience, where every single soul is so unique that what I was shown for myself is that because of the uniqueness of each soul, without that soul being there, things would become out of balance. Things wouldn't actually even be the same. This is why when you do cross over, you remember beings that you don't even know here right now. but you know them. You sense their frequency, their essence. It's all there. We all know each other. This is why when you fully transition, cross over, or through control, or what I'm talking about, all is seen. Everybody's naked, essentially. All is known and seen by all souls through the records as well, because everything's recorded. Everybody is experiencing here the character of their own movie, and they can take control over that. This is why people have been so weakened to believe otherwise, that they cannot take control over it. This is why they lower the electromagnetic field of the physical bodies. That's why there's such an aggressive attack on many different fronts here. You have the attack on the physical health of the body to keep things dormant. Once you start disrupting the electromagnetic field of the body through food, certain foods, through frequency, then things start to break down. I mean, like I stated before in the beginning of this, those that need science, which science is a whole other dogma, but those that need science to understand this, it is scientifically a fact that your heart generates an electromagnetic field. So what in this field extends out past the body. This is why when you walk into a room, you can instantly sense something. You could feel something. This is why two women are sharing the same space. They will start to share their same cycles. They will sync because you are an electromagnetic being, also sharing that you're communicating with each other. This is why when someone gets sick or a cold, it's not necessarily that they're passing a cold or a sickness onto somebody else. It's because their field is triggering another person's field to detox. It's triggering that to detox. All cold sickness, what people call viruses, all detox mechanisms based off the toxins that you have within your physical body. This is something that truly needs to be walked in an absolute knowing. When I typically hear people say, I'm going to increase my frequency, I immediately go to pretending to increase their frequency by meditating or whatever. And they're not actually putting the intention there and doing all things that are required to truly be that thing. How you truly do it is through truly standing 100% and completely in absolute knowing that this is what you want to do. So the desired result is what you want. You have to truly stand in that and be that. That's what you have to do. You have to start using your spoken words. The frequency that you speak has to align with the footsteps that you take. If anything's out of sync, then you start to get this warping effect. It's an undesirable effect where you say you want this, and you're not necessarily speaking and walking that path with absolute integrity and love.
Now let me call your attention to the design on the cover of this record. You will notice a man sitting on a park bench, imagining himself to be in a home. This is the secret of those who lie in bed awake while they dream things true. They know how to live in their own dream house until, in fact, they do. Man, through the medium of a controlled waking dream, can predetermine his future. That imaginal activity of living in the feeling of the wish fulfilled leads man across a bridge of incident to the fulfillment of the dream. If we live in the dream, thinking from it and not of it, then the creative power of imagining will answer our adventurous fancy, and the wish fulfilled will break in upon us and take us unawares. Man is all imagination. Therefore, man must be where he is in imagination, for his imagination is himself. To realize that imagination is not something tied to the senses or enclosed within the spatial boundary of the body is most important. Although man moves about in space by movement of his physical body, he need not be so restricted. He can move by a change in what he's aware of. However real the scene on which sight rests, man can gaze on one never before witnessed. He can always remove the mountain if it upsets his concept of what life ought to be. This ability to mentally move from things as they are to things as they ought to be is one of the most important discoveries that man can make. It reveals man as a center of imagining with powers of intervention, which enable him to alter the course of observed events, moving from success to success through a series of mental transformations of nature, of others, and himself. How does he do it? Self-abandonment. That is the secret. He has to abandon himself mentally to his wish fulfilled, in his love for that state, and in so doing live in the new state and no more in the old state. Now, we can't commit ourselves to what we do not love. So the secret of self-commission is faith plus love. Faith is believing what is incredible. We commit ourselves to the feeling of the wish fulfilled in faith that this act of self-commission will become a reality. And it will, because imagining creates reality.
I love the work of Neville Goddard. There's a really excellent compendium of his work, which lasted over many decades. 1960s was kind of the last decade that he was doing any meaningful work, because he passed in the early 1970s, as indeed did Alan Watts, for that matter. And it's interesting because, like with Alan Watts, he studied a lot of the Eastern philosophies, the Buddhism, the Hindus, and Taoism. And he brought that to the West. That was his thing. And with Neville, he spent a lot of time in Ethiopia. He was born in Barbados, but he learned a lot going to some sort of spiritual guru type folks over in Ethiopia. So he learned a lot of African things, indigenous wisdom, if you like. And that's kind of what he brought to this. And this is how he did his, and he was very popular. I mean, he had TV shows, radio shows, whatever, going through it for many decades, and rightfully so. He was very, very wise. So what this brought us to, again, we've talked about moon alchemy a lot over these last few weeks, and we have got quite a few moon alchemists out there right now, and an important time is coming up from that perspective as well, because tomorrow is the full moon in the United States. Full moon in the United Kingdom and Europe is actually on Tuesday rather than Monday. So they're going through their meditations. What we do is we record your version of a world of unspeakable beauty, however you want to define that, and we put it within a meditation. It's all nicely curated, but what happens is every time you listen to it, you are aligning yourself vibrationally to what it is you are seeking to achieve, because within that you have, as was explained there, you've got to get into the imagination, you've got to get into the emotions, you've got to get into the gratitude and the playfulness and the intention and everything that sits behind that, and put that into the words, right? Because this is acting as if a wish fulfilled. Don't be wanting for things, because when you're wanting for things, you're actually sending a signal to the universe that you want to want things. Therefore, it goes further away from you. So you have to come at that, as Neville says, as if a wish fulfilled. And these things are magical. Now, when it gets to full moon, as our moon alchemists will know, this is when you go into a major gratitude phase to say thank you, thank you, thank you. Because even if your desires have not yet arrived in the physical, they're being created in the non-physical for arrival in the physical. So when you put your gratitude that way, it just accelerates that process, and then everything changes for the waning of the moon. So really, that is what it's about. Now, you got to bear in mind that what you're really playing to here is this universal mirror effect that we speak about quite regularly, because that's how it works, right? This is how we create our reality. The vibrations we put out there are mirrored back to us. So if we get caught in the external narratives of fear and anger and division and all the rest of it, we're actually asking for more reasons to feel fear, division, and anger and all this kind of thing. Is that's basically, we become a magnet for that. Whereas when we're focusing on the really high frequency energies, that are the things that we'd really want for ourselves, we're being a magnet for that. Simple as that. It really isn't that complicated. I mean, there is an awful lot more to it beyond that, and Jolé will get into that in a moment. But it's just about the other thing, and you'll see this in life. You'll know optimists and you'll know pessimists, and you'll know how it's strange, but the pessimists always attract to them the results of what they're pessimistic about. Similarly, the optimists who always have their glass half full, they're the ones who always things seem to work out for. So there's something there, and it may be an unconscious thing, but It comes down to this, and I've used this before, and I'm not a Bible person by any stretch of the imagination, but I know the Gospel of Matthew, and because I always have this written out because it's a really good one to remember because it brings you back on track. Gospel of Matthew 25-29. For to everyone who has, more will be given, and they will have an abundance. But from the one who does not have, even what they have will be taken away. Right. So what that is saying is that so if you're stuck in lack programming, if you're stuck in that lack mentality, unfortunately, what you're doing is you're being a magnet for more lack. At the same time, the people, and this is the way it works, right? People who are naturally abundant, people who have a lot of money, don't worry about money, right? Therefore, in feeling positive about money, they draw more money towards themselves. When you really need it and you're wanting for it, you're pushing it further away. So you've got to bear in mind that's a really powerful statement from the Bible right there. If you bear that in mind, that you need to reprogram yourself. And this is basically what the moon alchemy thing is about, is the opportunity to do that. And I'm going to bring Jolé in on that because she's the one who talks about the reprogramming side of things, and she's very good at it. So Jolé, what do you reckon?
As a theta healer, I learned that that is so important, is to get in the subconscious mind. And the analogy that we like to use is that the conscious mind is the monitor, the subconscious mind, which is the theta brainwave. Now, the theta brainwave is what does all the reprogramming. And that is the place between sleep and awake. You know what I'm talking about? It's like you're almost sleeping and somebody makes, and you wake up. Okay, that's the area where theta is really effective. And so in the moon alchemy meditation, what happens is your subconscious hears your own voice. So it can relax and it can do the reprogramming because it's coming from a safe space. And from that, you're able to then change what's happening on the monitor or the conscious mind. And that's why the moon alchemy meditation is so impactful, because it's your voice, which automatically puts you in a safe space. It's also going to help you take care of the self-sabotaging we talked about from all the programming that's coming in externally, because it's you dealing with you, working with those 50 trillion cells, lighting you up, expanding you. And it gets you in alignment with the phases of the moon, which then has a physical body relax, which the circadian rhythms can now move in a way that promotes health and wellness. So you can't go wrong with this moon alchemy meditation, and just all that it can bring you when you're listening to it. It's going to right the ship, so to speak, because Darius told us it's only really 28 days. We're really living in a, what do you want to call it, a simulation that is a virus. So to get out of that virus program, we got to get back in rhythm with Mother Earth. And the moon alchemy is a great first step to help you get there.
Yeah, yeah, and that's a good point actually, because Darius did mention about the fact is that the year is supposed to be of 13 months, right? It's 28 days cycles of the of lunar cycles. And
Right.
the real power in that is that the fact is in the waxing phase, there is a certain element where you have to do, and then in the waning phase, it changes around. And this is kind of following, you're going with the energetic flow. So you're not fighting against it. Whereas the 12-month calendar has kind of dumbed us down and taught, we've been taught to
Yeah.
swim into the tide rather than with the tide. So, we basically struggle to go anywhere. Again, part of the false programming and conditioning. So this is getting back into alignment with, and
Yeah.
it was interesting actually, because I know that in the Bodleian Library in Oxford University, they discovered the Bible, which King James Bible dated 1775, which had all this moon alchemy stuff in there. It had the complete lunar calendar and the energies behind it. Nobody published that, right? Nobody would push that out there because the church, and they didn't want that seen. They didn't want people to know that we actually have the power of following that energetic cycle. And we're working on a journal which will support the meditations as well, which we're working on. In fact, just to say to Joy, who's out there watching us right now, thank you. They arrived yesterday. So she's done a number of sketches which are going to support the Moon Alchemy Journal, to help us to visualize and manifest what we're doing and what it's all about. So thank you, Joy. Truly appreciate your artwork.
Let's just say if you want to manifest something in your life, for instance, you start to imagine it. You start from the beginning, all right? Beginning, there's the void, the darkness, right? And you birth light into creation. So you're going to start there. You close your eyes, you see the black space, the beginning of all things. You start to imagine it, you birth the light into creation. Light is always secondary from darkness. You see, darkness is the true state, the void, the black space, and light was always birthed from the black space because the void holds all the colors. So you start there. You start to imagine it. You start birthing light into creation. You envision what you want, imagination, envision it, manifestation into creation, what you want. And then when you see that, then you hold that focus. You have to be focused and hold that focus on that, your desired result and your desired outcome. And as you start walking, you need to start walking that path, using your words, and walking in integrity, walking in love, and not stepping out of those things, not getting distracted over here or distracted over there. Just tunnel vision on that, what you want, essentially. Because once you think about this, once you focus that amount of energy, your soul, your electromagnetic field, the soul, and you funnel that energy into one thing, it's like a speed train there. You see?